Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and today we are going to split some time between the new exotic quests which launched alongside the actual season launch of Echoes. Both exciting in their own ways. I think the exotic quest is causing up a little more of excitement or drama or whatever you want to call it. In terms of the season launch, this is the first of 3 episodes in a way that is supposed to get us away from the traditional seasonal model, and it doesn't feel like it's doing that, at least initially here. I can't really see a difference between this and any other season start, other than maybe they had a couple of more cutscenes at the beginning there. We still have our vendor ranks. We still have some little boxes to tick that help us with our activities, and it's a little bit less structured. Like, there's some different kinds of activities. There's different ways to get bonus rewards, but so far it does feel pretty standard to me in terms of how a normal season would launch. And it's also the case that it's time gated. So the idea that maybe we were going to be able to do all of Act 1 when it launched and then just wait for Act 2 as opposed to waiting week to week, it doesn't seem to be the case. So we're sort of in the same track there. In terms of the actual content of the season / episode, that's been good so far. I really like Failsafe coming back. That is the original voice actress. It's just been a lot of time, and sound mixing may be different, so maybe they don't sound exactly the same, but once you know it's the same voice actor, you can tell. And so that's great. The script so far is very funny. It's a lot better than it was in vanilla Destiny 1, because we have, I believe, an entirely new writing team from 7 years ago. I literally laughed out loud when she went she was plugged into the news for the first time, and she went through all the stuff that had happened. I literally laughed out loud, and that's pretty rare for Destiny to make me audibly laugh unexpectedly. The missions themselves, so there's one that's just sort of rolling around a patrol zone in Nessus, sort of, and then farming these data bits. Sometimes you're just killing yellow bars. Sometimes you're shooting a little laser at a thing in the sky, and you get bits, you deposit bits, and then you move on to a new area. It's maybe a little more loosely structured than some here's your arena, kill these waves, and that's the end. It's slightly different than that, and then there's a boss room where there's a couple of different options, like a tormentor in a very small room, which is annoying, and then there's one that has a bunch of hydras. I'm not sure how many there are. I've only done the basic version. There's some harder versions. As a normal mission, it's not terribly difficult. I would say the more interesting thing that happened with the season launch was this, I forget what it's called now, but you're sent to some place deep in one of the wells on Nessus, and you find a secret quest that is not, I don't know how much of a secret it is, because they do lead you there, but it is this time trial type thing where you are speeding through the Vex network very quickly, where it's very much a race in terms of you normally don't even have more than a minute to get through something, and in order to extend your time, you either have to kill specific enemies or you have to shoot these little time extender nodes, and you sort of have to learn where they are in order to hit all the ones you need in order to kind of maximize your time. It's pretty long. There are 2 significant segments to get through, and then I think at the end you get some good rewards. I got an Ascendant Shard. I think you get, I believe, double perk Season of Dawn weapons if you get through the whole thing, and it was pretty fun. It's a little frustrating. If you fail, it just literally starts you over with the same group. It doesn't take you to orbit, but it will start you over. And I took a couple of tries to really kind of figure out, oh, here's where the node is. This is how we extend time. Blah blah blah. It's a cool concept for a mission. It's a little I don't know if it's something I want to run all the time, but it's definitely a unique concept for a mission that we've seen a couple of these time trial things. We did do one, I recall, a while ago that was you had a pretty short amount of time and then you killed some things to extend the time. It wasn't this intense. It was less intense than this, but it was another Vex thing, I think. So it's kind of an evolution of that concept. In terms of the storyline, I am still waiting for something to convince me that the Vex can have a truly compelling storyline. We are currently trying to find out what the Echo did that fell into Nessus, and from the cover art, we know that there was some sort of Vex person who's like doing something bad here. The running theory is that it's Maya Sundaresh and all her Vex connections. Um, it, I guess Failsafe is our like Vex NPC, even though, she's not really Vex, it's like sort of equivalent. And then if we have like a Vex villain who's like an actual person and not just like part of some collective consciousness in the same sense. We sort of had that with Lakshmi briefly for like a season. And that's I feel like that's something that's sort of missing from the Vex as a faction. And I'm curious if by the end of the season they're going to create an actual compelling Vex storyline, because I don't remember too many of those throughout the course of the game. I think they're very hard to write. Past that, we can go to the Exotic Quest, which is awesome. It was very cool. I don't know how people found this so fast, but like in brief, the steps are you got to run 3 overthrows to the end. At the end of each of them, it'll say a witch, Savathun, Witch Queen ally thing has spawned. You got to find it, which is, I had trouble the first time doing this. And once you kill all 3 of them, you go to a little part in the middle, kill some subjugators, dunk some balls, and you have unlocked the exotic mission. This is Dual Destiny, the rare mission with Destiny in its name. I don't want to spoil this mission, other than to say that like it's unique in the sense that like it requires 2 people. You cannot play solo. They won't even let you load it. You cannot play with 3 people. It is entirely based around the concept of 2 players working in synergy. Not only that, you 100% need comms. Like I'm sure it's somehow possible to do this without comms. Like if you're emoting or something, but like you really, really, really need comms. And I know that is a turnoff for a lot of people. It's kind of a turnoff for me. Like I don't really enjoy the concept of being forced into doing comms for something, especially if you're doing something like off Fireteam Finder or whatever. Granted, if you have a bud to run it with, perfect. But if not, that is something I can see as a deterrent for many people. And that's what a lot of people were saying. The other issue with that is like, if this is how we're supposed to farm the exotic class item when there are like 60 combinations of this thing, that is a little daunting. I'll get into that in a minute, but like the good news is the mission is awesome. It's really well designed. I'm willing to sacrifice the ability to play solo or whatever, or without comms, just for this being as a creative as a mission it is, because we have not seen anything like this. We've never seen something with required duo mechanics that the entire thing is based around. It's like a duo dungeon essentially, and really specific communication. Like you're using the vow callouts. Like I'll say that. Like you really have to like say symbols and time things and like things like that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I get why people are not thrilled about it, and yet it's just Bungie needs the freedom, I think, to do stuff like this. I think one of the issues is what you're farming from it. It's not just like, oh, here's another randomly rolled exotic, weapon. You can get different barrels and, Vorpal instead of Frenzy or something. It's like the whole exotic class item system. So this is something that like people were really looking forward to. It was like a first ever thing in Destiny, and now it's tied to this exotic mission. It's sort of. So you have to beat it once per character. Like you have to unlock it once per account, and then on each character you need to run it once if you want to start farming the class items for it. The good news is if you don't want to keep running it, you only have to run it once, because then if you just want to farm Pale Heart activities, it has a chance to drop from any chests, including a bad luck system where it builds up over time. Higher tier chests build it up more, and you will eventually get one. That may take a good amount of time, but you will. It will certainly be possible. Or you can run the mission itself for a guaranteed drop. I do understand that, like, yeah, it's not, I think my first run was like 45 minutes, but like you can get it down to, I'm sure, 30, 35 minutes. So, but it's not the length. It's like you always need a duo. You always need someone who can be on comms. And for one restriction or another, like you're not always going to have that ability. Like some people rarely may have that ability, if ever. To be able to run that, much less one time, like to farm that mission. Like you got to be a really specific type of player who's either the most social person who wants to do comms on LFG all the time, or you have a bunch of, dedicated friends you can pull at any given time to run that mission with you. So that to me is like, okay, well, this is a cool mission concept. I don't know if I would have done it for the exotic class item thing. the ability to get them from chess is better certainly, but that seems like it is a very, very long farm in terms of time. So you're the other way is less time, but you need more coordination with another player. So yeah, I ended up getting a really good hunter cloak, which is the Synthoceps Caliban cloak. So increased melee damage, melee kills, create an ignition. Pretty good. So I'm excited to try that out, and then I do want to do the other classes and make sure I can start farming those at least in chess and other places. But yeah, it is an insanely good mission. It's so well done, and again, without going too deep into it, it's very large, it's very significant. It's certainly on par with any of the other exotic missions we've gotten. Some people are saying it is like one of the best exotic missions ever, if not the best. I'm not opposed to that argument. I guess I could probably see it. And then if that's true, this is the best expansion with the best destination, with probably the best raid, with the best finale for the story, with the best exotic mission. Things are going pretty good. A lot of positivity lately, and that includes this. So from here, we are doing more seasonal stuff. This seems like it's going to progress pretty close to a normal season. Again, it's just week 1, so there might be some twists and turns and things that don't play out exactly how we foresee it. But and this is a longer, this is a month longer than a normal season would be. You just want it to be, kind of significantly greater in size if that is the case. But it's just week 1 and there's a lot more to go, and I'm not going to pass too much judgment on it this early. But go play the exotic mission if you can. You can unlock it solo. You can do the whole unlock process solo, which is, again, 3 onslaughts, 3 witch kills, find a light, dunk some balls. Like, you can do that part yourself if you just want to have it unlocked for later. If you have friends that want to do it, they have to do that too. You can't bring someone who has not unlocked it, so that's another catch. You might have to, technically just do it with your friend, and then you can both have it unlocked at the same time. But I get why this is a little controversial, but the mission's so good. Like, I'm not going to say they shouldn't have made it, or they should have a solo option. If you play the mission, like, you can't just make this solo. Like, that's not a thing that can work at all. Like, it's impossible. So I think we have to allow them some sort of creative freedom, even if it means solo players get left behind. That's the whole concept of a raid. Like, unless you're unless you're esoteric, like, you're not soloing raids. So, like, this isn't a raid, but it's also not as hard to find one player to play it with than it is 5 players and coordinate between all of them. So it's not a dungeon, and, like, you can solo dungeons, obviously, but that's, tricky, and you're probably not going to farm dungeons solo, so that does require people too. But the nature of it does also require comms communication that maybe another dungeon or something wouldn't. Anyway, yeah, you should play it. I get it might be an ask for some people, but it's definitely worth it because it's probably one of the best things that they've ever done. I was like, oh, it's not match made, I might just wait on it, but then everyone was just raving about it. I'm like, all right, I gotta get it done. So I did, and it's great. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.